What's up, a cinemashogun here, and when it comes to this case about the 3 Kansas City Chiefs fans who were found frozen to death in their friend's backyard, it seems like we have heard from everyone and their mama, literally. We've heard from everyone but law enforcement. And I told you all yesterday that it was only a matter of time before people started crawling out of the woodworks with the story to tell. Because, at this point, we've heard from the family and friends of Jordan. We've heard from various friends and family members and girlfriends of the 3 men who died. We've heard from the 5th friend. We've heard from Jordan's lawyer. We've heard from the 5th friend's lawyer. We've heard from a little bit of everybody but law enforcement. But like I said, I knew it was only a matter of time before other people started talking, and now news outlets have been in the neighborhood where Jordan used to live, because you got to remember that Jordan picked up and hauled behind really quickly and moved out of there. So now the media outlets are finally getting around to going to the neighborhood. They've been knocking on doors, talking to neighbors, and boy, oh boy, the neighbors are ready to talk. One neighbor even revealed that he had a video from that night when the police arrived and found the guys' bodies. And we're going to watch that video in just a moment. But first, there's another detail that has been revealed by one of the parents of one of the men who died. He claims that one of the men was found in a frozen position on a lawn chair in the backyard. Now, I find this detail very, very interesting, because I've been wondering this whole time, why did law enforcement write this case off so quickly? Why did they rule out foul play so quickly? Did the positioning of the bodies make them think that these guys were just chilling, hanging out, and passed out or something? And then listen, I don't believe Jordan. I don't think anyone believes Jordan. Jordan has made it really hard to believe him, right? But what if? What if there's a possibility that Jordan took the same stuff these guys took, and Jordan passed out for a couple of days, and these guys passed out, but these guys died because they're outside? Let's say there's a scenario where all of these guys are hanging out. Jordan feels like he's getting a little too messed up. He goes inside, leaves his friends outside, drunk, high, or whatever, who knows. And Jordan cozies up in the warmth of his own home on his couch or his bed as his friends are still chilling on the lawn chairs outside where he left them, thinking, oh, they'll handle it, they'll be okay. And then, turns out they're not okay. Turns out they passed out in the freezing cold and never woke up again. Is that a possibility? Because, it's still possible that Jordan could have dragged a body and put it on the lawn chair, but all I'm saying is the positioning of these bodies is going to be really interesting when trying to figure out what actually happened here. Now, we know that one person was supposedly laid out on the back porch, so that's very different than being, chilling on a lawn chair. But, that's a detail that's really sticking out to me right now, because we don't know much about this case. And to be clear, this is not official information provided by law enforcement, but this is a detail that has come out recently. But with all that being said, I want to show you this video. Another neighbor has come forward. He's speaking out. He has shown a video. I want to roll this news clip, but before I do so, I need a huge favor from all of you all. I need you to hit the thumbs up. I need you to subscribe. And I need you to hit that little bell, that little notification bell. Ring the notification bell so you can be notified of when I upload my next video. I got a lot more videos coming out about this case, other cases, other stories. We're breaking news all the time on this channel. So ring that notification bell so you can be notified. But with that being said, let's roll this clip really quickly, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
I told you about Ashton Brady. He was the neighbor who lives right across from Jordan Willis, who just by happenstance looked out at the exact moment that 911 was being called. Ashton, we know now that that was Clayton's fiance that actually discovered those bodies, called 911 and alerted the authorities. Just walk me through what you saw in that moment.
So basically, I was just going, turn off all my lights. I was getting ready for bed, locking the doors. I went to lock my front door, and I saw a woman come out of the backyard on her phone, and she looked distressed because she kept looking back towards the house, and I thought it was weird. But I just moved in, so I really didn't know much, and so I just went back to my room. 10 minutes later, I saw an ambulance drive by, and I said, well, that's just weird. Something's going on. Went to the front room, looked out, and I saw that there was already 3 cop cars, and there was a man detained, and the woman was talking to the other police. And basically, I kind of watched that conspire for an hour or two. The man eventually left. The police searched the house, went through the backyards and everything, and I had no idea what had happened. And the next morning, I saw the news that they had found 3 dead bodies, and I just was kind of in disbelief. I was like, wow, I watched that happen.
Right, and actually we're looking at that video that you shot right there on the top left corner of your screen. So basically you're saying that's the video where you're actually looking out and you can see Jordan Willis being detained.
That's probably within the first 5 to 10 minutes. I was like, oh my goodness, something serious is going on at least. So yeah.
So your red flags were going off in that moment, but even before that, right? Because you saw some of these victims' cars that were right here parked in front of your house, and that also kind of alerted you, right? Because that was unusual.
Yeah, we had just moved in, but that week we had never seen those cars there. And then all of a sudden, that whole weekend, there was cars parked right in front of our drive, and they never left. And they stayed there until the police came, and even after that, we found out they're deceased. Yes, those cars never left.
And obviously that was something that raised your suspicions at all. Tell me, I know you hadn't lived here for very long, right? But tell me at all about Jordan Willis, what you know about him. I mean, did you ever see him out and about? Was he friendly? Did he come by and talk to you ever?
Honestly, I've never seen him out. I never saw him or talked to him, so I cannot speak for that, honestly. I do not know.
How about the fact that just something that is so strange, this case in general is bizarre and we don't have many answers, but the fact of the matter is 3 men were outside for 2 days on this backyard, one sitting up in a chair, 2 laying down on their backs, frozen to death. I mean, how do you wrap your mind around all that information?
It's a lot, honestly. I imagine it has something to do with a bad drug or something, but it's strange that how long it occurred for people for something to notice like that. If it happened on a Sunday, that's a long time, and I feel like something should have been said, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's hard to say out loud because you don't have all the information, but the fact of the matter is 3 men are now dead. Does it feel like you're getting, or your community is getting, the answers it deserves right now? That seems to be the big issue that the families have, is it just doesn't feel like they're getting closure because they're not getting answers.
Yeah, I feel for the families and that they just want to know what really happened. And I feel like if we need to know, we need to know. I'm sure answers are going to come out, but I know a lot of people are wondering what happened around here. That's for sure.
What is the talk of the town? How are people talking about it still? Because no doubt about it, the whole world is looking at this case and talking about it. So how do you and your friends talk about it, process it, work through this whole story?
We just kind of sit down and talk about it. Sometimes we're just randomly, we'll be talking about like what could have really happened. Like how do your 3 buddies, just you not notice them for 2 days outside in the backyard? So it's really strange for me and all of our friends. It's really hard for me to say, but I feel like it had to have been just maybe an accident. I don't know. It needs more investigation, though, I think.
Ashton, hang
Alex?
tight. I think Ashley Banfield has a question. Go ahead, Ashley.
I do. I don't think he can hear me with an IFB, but if he can't, pass this question on. Can you ask Ashton if he saw the bodies coming out of the house? Because we learned tonight on Chris Cuomo that the father of one of the men knew that one of the men was died or frozen in a position in a lawn chair on the back porch. And I wondered if he saw gurneys come out with 3 bodies, or if he saw something unusual in the position of the bodies that were brought out of the house.
Sure. We want to know what you saw beyond those initial things that you've shared already, in specific about the bodies coming out of this house. Were you still awake at that time? Did you witness gurneys or medical examiners actually coming out with these bodies or taking them out?
So I actually did not. After that, everyone kind of cleared out, so I didn't know what had happened, so I just went to bed. I thought it was just a misunderstanding or something between a wife and a husband, but that wasn't it at all. So I went to sleep, went to work the next day, and when I was at work, I got an email or a message from a friend, sending me the picture of the article about the dead people, and I was like, oh my goodness. So I honestly did not see an ambulance actually gurney anyone out or anything like that.
What do you remember about the conditions during those days here in Kansas City? Obviously, these bodies were found frozen. Do you remember it being cold, freezing? Obviously, you saw this woman talking on her cell phone at night, 10 o'clock at night in the winter weather, and so that raised your alarms. But what do you remember just about the temperatures or the weather around that time?
It was cold. It was really cold. I'd gone hunting that Sunday, and we hunted a pond, and we actually had to put pretty much an ice prop in there to make the pond open. So I mean, if that tells you anything, we could walk on the ice. That's how thick it was. So I mean, it was definitely below freezing, and not temperatures you want to just be outside hanging out in with no clothes.
Yeah, enough to raise red flags. Ashton, thank you very much for sharing that.
I don't know about you all, but I am extremely enthusiastic about the fact that neighbors are starting to speak out. And this is just day one. These media outlets just started knocking on doors and asking questions. And we've already heard from multiple neighbors, and we've seen a video. And I would imagine there is more. But one thing all of the neighbors seem to think, or one thing all of the neighbors say, is that they haven't really seen Jordan much. That they don't really know Jordan. So Jordan seems to be someone that's kind of reserved. But much like all of us, none of these neighbors believe Jordan's story. But right now, I am hung up on that detail about how one of those bodies was found frozen on a lawn chair. Now, of course, Jordan could have placed the body there or something like that, but it really makes you think. Could Jordan be telling the truth? And you know, in this day and age, you got to be extremely careful who you get messed up around, right? You got to be extremely careful who you go out drinking with. Or if you're going to do drugs, you got to be careful where you get them from and who you do them with. Because people aren't built in the way they were built back in the day. Things started to get bad during my generation. Things were even better before, when I was a teenager. But even in my day, you looked out for your friends. If your friend was drunk at a party, you took care of them. If your friend was tripping out on shrooms or having a bad trip, you took care of them. You made sure they were okay. And if you were all sitting around outside in freezing weather, tripping on something or drunk on something, and you had the mental and physical capability to get your ass up and go inside, you would make sure that your drunk ass friends would take their asses inside as well. You would look after them. You as a friend and your friend as well, you would mutually look after each other. It was an unspoken rule, but we see cases time and time again. Think about the Kylie Rodney case, where friends aren't really friends, and friends don't really look out for you in those moments when they need to. Like, what are friends even for? And I'm not trying to make excuses for Jordan at all, but is there a possibility that these men were all hanging out outside, drunk or on something, and Jordan's like, I'm going to get up and go inside in my warm, toasty house, and then just left the guys outside to their own? You know what I mean? Is that a possibility? That they're all hanging around outside, chilling on the lawn chairs, and then Jordan's like, man, screw this. I'm about to go inside, but he just leaves his friends out there. Maybe some of them are already halfway passed out or all the way passed out, and he's like, I'd rather go inside. In my day, and a good friend, they're going to make sure you come inside as well. But we have to remember, folks, it's not illegal to be a bad friend. And I think there's a huge possibility that in this case, we're not dealing with something necessarily illegal. We're not dealing with Jordan, he wanted to kill his friends, but we're dealing with someone that was just a bad friend. And it seems like Jordan may be the socially awkward type. Maybe he doesn't pick up on certain cues, and he's obviously, he wasn't as close to these three guys as they were to each other. I think if they were at one of these three guys' houses and they, are at least sober enough to get up and go inside, they would have made sure their friends came with them. But maybe there was a situation where Jordan didn't do that. Jordan's like, I'm going to get up and go to bed. Hopefully they'll be okay. And then he wakes up in the morning and they're not okay. These guys never wake up again. And down here in like Florida, we don't have to worry about stuff like that. Down in certain portions of the South, we'll leave your ass outside, okay? If you pass out in a lawn chair down in Florida, you'll be okay. Maybe an alligator might get you. Maybe you might get bit up by some mosquitoes or gnats. You'll probably wake up with a suntan or some sunburn. But if we leave you outside in Florida in the 70, 80 degree weather, we know you're going to be okay, okay? So it's okay to leave your friends passed out outside sometimes. But when you're in freezing cold weather, you don't just get up and leave your friends in the freaking snow in a lawn chair passed out on Lord knows what. You make sure that all of those men get inside. And if you're inside having a good time and oh, my friends are drunk, we've been drinking, we've been doing this, you don't let them leave your house to drive home. And if you're being bitchy and you feel like, oh, I'm ready to stop partying, I'm ready to go to sleep, and everyone wants to keep it going, you make sure they're okay. You make sure, okay, you can party here, you can do what you want here, right? You don't send people on their way when they're drunk or when they're messed up. But some friends will, some people will. And, I think that we may be dealing with the case of someone being a bad friend, not necessarily a murderer. But I guess only time will tell. But let this be a lesson. Even for you grown folks. We think this is a lesson that we have to teach our kids. I don't have kids, but you know what I mean. You think this is a lesson you got to teach your kids. You think this is a lesson that you got to teach your teenagers. But this is a lesson that adults need to know as well. Because it doesn't matter what age you are. If you're going to be out here drinking, and you're going to be out here doing this, you're going to be out here doing that, even if you're out here totally sober, you got to be aware of the type of people you're around. And you don't want to spend too much time around someone who doesn't value your life. I always tell people that you want to be around people who value your life, and you want to be around people who value their own life as much as you value your own life. So you got to be careful. It doesn't matter if you're 30, 40, 50. Hell, some of y'all are in your 60s partying harder than me. You got to be careful who you're around. You got to be careful who you do stuff with. Because not everyone's going to look after you. Not everyone's going to be a shoulder you can lean on. So you got to be careful these days. But with that being said, let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments below. While you're down there, if you're feeling generous, you can donate to the channel via CashApp. Or you can donate via Super Thanks, or for free, you could help the channel by liking the video, subscribing, ringing that notification bell, and all of that good stuff. But with that being said, I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.